ever get that feeling like there's got to be more to this story, you know, like something deeper going on?
Oh, absolutely.
It's exactly what we're diving into today with tarantism.
Fascinating.
And it's way more than just a spider bite, that's for sure.
More than just a jig, too.
Right. It's a whole cultural thing, really.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, we've got Tulia Conte as our guide.
It's just fantastic.
She really is. I mean, she's practically written the books on tarantism.
And her take on it is really insightful. She brings up this anthropologist, Annabella Rossi, who really changed the game in terms of how we understand it.
Rossi, yeah. I came across her name. She was influenced by Ernesto Di Martino, right? Wasn't he a big name in Italian anthropology?
Huge. He really shifted the way we look at these traditions, and Rossi, she took it even further. Like, instead of just watching from the sidelines, she used photography and film, really captured the human side of it all.
Which makes sense, right? Because we're talking about people here, real people. So the tarantism itself, Tulia Conte makes it very clear this wasn't just, oh, spider bite, quick, everyone dance.
Definitely not. Conte describes it as, let me see if I can get the quote right, one of the expressions of a complex and ancient magical ritual system. And it wasn't just an Italian thing either. We're talking Spain, other parts of the Mediterranean. It was widespread.
Wow. Okay, so this belief system was seriously widespread. But, and this is where it gets really interesting to me at least, you can't talk about tarantism without the tarantella dance coming up. Tell me they are as connected as they sound.
Oh, they are totally connected. Research, especially the work of Ernesto Di Martino back in the 1960s, really shows how the tarantella wasn't just some random folk dance. It was a core part of the tarantism ritual.
So the dance itself was part of the healing. That's wild.
Yeah. The movements, the music, even the social part of it, all likely played a role. Maybe like a catharsis, you know?
Yeah.
A release for the tarantellata, I think that's the term they used.
So like the dance, the music, it all kind of reset things.
It's possible, and Conte, she describes the tarantella beautifully, calls it immaterial heritage. Like it's this reflection of the civilization, the emotions that created it.
Immaterial heritage. Okay, for those of us who aren't fluent in anthropology speak, what does that even mean?
Basically, think of it as these parts of culture you can't really touch, but you definitely feel. Traditions, skills, knowledge, even rituals like this dance, it's culture passed down. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So it's like the dance itself is carrying all that history, that culture within it.
Right. Conte says, and this is a powerful one, it's a mirror of a civilization, a vehicle of emotions. Similarly to religion, it is an expression of profound values linked to the archetypal vision of the world.
Wow, heavy stuff. Now I really want to see this dance. But first, back to Annabella Rossi. Tulia Conte talks about her field work, specifically in Cilento. That's a region in southern Italy, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's where she really got up close and personal with tarantism, collecting firsthand accounts and everything.
And this is where she meets Michela Margiotta.
Right. Exactly. A tarantellata herself, and Rossi got to actually witness her ritual.
Witnessing it firsthand. That's incredible. What was that like?
Intense, from what Rossi describes.
Really?
Oh yeah, she's talking about like a dimly lit room, Michela's on a bed, clearly suffering, and then the music starts up.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What kind of music are we talking about here?
Violin, tambourine, accordion, even guitar. Rossi really paints it as this vibrant, almost frantic sound.
Wow, and I'm guessing Michela doesn't stay on that bed.
No way. She starts dancing around it like this raw energy takes over.
Okay, so we're not talking a gentle sway here. This was something else.
Oh yeah, Rossi described these intense bouts of dancing. They'd last like 15 minutes, and then it would culminate in this trance-like state. Sometimes she'd even faint.
Intense is an understatement. Then what?
Then she'd rest, get her strength back, and the whole cycle would start again.
And this went on for...
Well, and here's where Rossi's approach gets really interesting. She didn't just observe this one ritual and move on.
No.
She kept in contact with Michela, letters, visits, even gifts, for 6 years after that.
6 years, that's a real connection.
It really is. For Rossi, it wasn't just about gathering data, it was about the human connection, understanding Michela's experience, and get this, their correspondence, it actually became the basis for one of Rossi's books, published in 1970.
Wow. So through Rossi's work, we get this direct link to Michela's story.
Absolutely. And it just reminds us that these traditions, they're not just abstract things, they're someone's lived reality.
Right. Right. So that makes me think, where does this leave us with tarantism today? I mean, Rossi's work was cut short, wasn't it?
Yeah, tragically, in 1984. So many unanswered questions. And it's something Tulia Conte really digs into. She uses this phrase talking about how the Taranta has been sold out.
That's a sad thought, but I get it. Taking something so rooted in community belief and turning it into a commodity.
Exactly, like a tourist attraction. And that feeds into that whole folklore debate, you know? How do we approach these traditions, appreciate their complexity, without exploiting them?
It's tricky, right? Because on the one hand, you want to share these traditions, keep them alive, but then there's the risk of diluting them, turning them into something they're not.
You said it.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of when I went to Hawaii a few years back. They have that beautiful hula dancing tradition there. So much meaning behind it, all about storytelling and spirituality and, you know.
Right.
But then seeing it performed at a luau,
Yeah.
you know, surrounded by tourists.
It hits different.
It does. And it makes you think, how do we hold on to that authenticity, you know? How do we find that balance between sharing and exploiting?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's not just about tarantism, it's about approaching any tradition, anywhere, with respect.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we actually pull that off?
I think it starts with shifting our perspective a little.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's about moving away from that what's in it for me kind of thinking.
The consumer mindset.
Exactly. And instead, we ask, what's the significance here? You know, what can I learn from this?
So instead of looking for that Instagram-worthy shot, maybe we actually take the time to, I don't know, learn the story behind the dance, the meaning behind the ritual.
Exactly. It's about showing up with humility, with this willingness to connect on a deeper level, you know? And maybe, just maybe, that's how these traditions stay alive.
Not as relics of the past.
Right. But as living, breathing parts of our world.
So well said. I feel like that's a really powerful note to end on.
It really is. Though there is one question I keep coming back to. Something Tulia Conte's work really sparked in me.
Yeah.
How can we, in our own lives, really engage with traditions, even those that seem unfamiliar, in a way that honors their true complexity? How do we make sure we're not just reducing them to something superficial?
That's a question worth sitting with for sure.
Really is.
And for everyone listening, if you want to dive deeper into this, I highly recommend checking out Tulia Conte's books, Annabella Rossi's photography. They're a great starting point.
Absolutely fascinating stuff.
And until next time, keep those minds curious.